I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it.
I said it a year ago, this virtue signaling weirdo was a lunatic. General Mark Milley, who is now telling the fake news he was acting as a head of state and a psychiatrist evaluating President Trump and tripping him up, trying to every step of the way. If anybody needs a psychiatrist, it's this guy.
A really silly ant. Yeah, go ahead, General.
No, it's not a really silly ant, Elmo.
Oh.
It's resilient is the word. Resilient.
A very strange display. This chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff really made a spectacle out of himself. Hey, do me a favor. Try to name another chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff over the past, say, 20 years. Right? You know what I mean? 30, I can remember Colin Powell and this guy, unfortunately. Colin Powell won the Gulf War. This guy, of course, lost Afghanistan. Very, very full of himself.
By the way, your Caps look pretty good, too. I know you love
Caps are doing great.
Yes, they
and
sure are.
it's coming in 3-0 right now. And I tell you what, this city, I think, is going to have a Stanley Cup champion.
Screwing around at a hockey game, troops on the battlefield at the time. I saw these generals come to New York a lot, actually, and even the CIA director giving speeches, attending banquets. I'm like, shouldn't you be in a situation room or a war room somewhere? They loved coming here, going places like that, and talking to the fake news, leaking to them, making friends with them, telling all of them what a hero he is. Yeah, all these books. I wonder if Milley is regretting saying some of what he said. I think he's exaggerating and leaving some things out. I do think if he kept his priorities in order, we would not have the mess that we have right now in Afghanistan. We saw it just, 2.5 weeks ago. So much of the world has moved on. I can't. I want to know more. I want to know more about why this happened. I have some ideas. I know that Donald Trump tried his best, but he was undermined every step of the way by the swamp. And General Milley, I think, saw a real opportunity to ally himself with the swamp against Donald Trump. As he sat there, you can see how big the swamp is, and Donald Trump was just one man, and they seemed so committed to removing him. I think he threw in his lot with the swamp, like some other people who got close to Trump and then realized, you know what, maybe I can benefit more by criticizing Trump, like the mooch. Remember that whole fiasco? All right, back to Milley. You know, like so many other generals, he was so, I believe, dishonest about what was happening in Afghanistan. Not only in the past couple of months, how about 7 years ago? In 2014, he spent significant time in Afghanistan. And of course, it was always such a rosy picture about how that Afghan military was doing against the Taliban.
In my professional assessment, after 35 years and multiple tours here in Afghanistan, I can tell you that the Afghan security forces were tactically overmatching anything that the Taliban, Haqqani, or anybody else could throw at them. And they performed extraordinarily well. And they didn't do that with a whole lot of ISAF or international help. They had some. We provided that over the summer. But for the most part, the Afghans carried the heavy load throughout the summer. And I think that's enormously significant.
Sounds like a Joe Biden press conference from July of this year. They're always saying the same thing and always touting the progress they made, each individual general.
It was this past summer, as you know, that a fundamental condition changed in this war, and it was the Afghan security forces who were in the lead. That is not just a talking point. That's not spin. That's not smoke. That's for real. And they paid for being in the lead in their blood. They sacrificed a lot, and yet they never broke at any time.
Why does he have to go out of his way to say that's not a talking point? That's not spin. That's not smoke. I mean, he's speaking. Obviously, it shouldn't be any of those things, but he has to say it out loud. Even he knows he can't. He admits to himself, at least, that so much of what these guys say is spin, talking points, and smoke.
And those security forces have gone from zero when I first showed up to almost 350,000 today.
Big trend, big trend. When When I got here, it was all screwed up. By the time I left, or by the time I leave, it'll be all great. Each time they did that, they stay about a year, and then the next guy, it was all terrible when I got here, it's all great when I leave, next guy comes, it's terrible, the cycle repeats itself.
Strategically, the tide of the war is not with the Taliban and their fellow travelers. The Taliban recognize that. They know they are on the edge of strategic defeat.
7 years ago. 7 years ago. More.
The Afghans stepped up to the fight. There were a lot of people a year ago, 2 years ago, that said that wasn't going to happen, and it did happen. The Afghan people and the Afghan security forces fought the fight this summer. Was it perfect? No. Was it pretty? No. But war is not a pretty thing. And but they did. They fought hard, and they achieved their strategic and operational objectives.
You see the subtle criticism of the generals who came before. Oh, a year ago, 2 years ago was impossible. But now that I'm here, everything is happening. Oh, don't ask too many questions. Yeah, the details. War is hell. And we know about that because we're in uniform. You don't. Back off. They play that card a lot. All right. What does it all mean, General? Please, when are we going to leave here?
If things are going so well, why can't the Americans just leave?
Well, yeah, let me, as I said, they did very well tactically. So we are transitioning right now. It's our assessment that the Afghan combat units, tactical advisors with them on combat operations.
You see what happens? Pretty straightforward question. He's been boasting about how well they've been doing. And then, well, if we've been doing this well, why can't we leave? Let me gather my thoughts here, and then issues a lot of military gibberish for about 5 minutes. What happens when you give such a briefing, say, to Joe Biden? What's he going to say? Don't talk to me about that. I know everything about Afghanistan, and much more than you, General. And my son, Bo, died in Iraq. I think that's how it went down. We'll see. Somebody will write a book about it. Maybe somebody good. These current books are not so good. General Milley is part of a trend that I've seen throughout the military, ever since I was in the military, actually. Always painting a rosy picture to impress the boss, whether that boss was a president, a commanding general, the Congress, or the American people.
I think that the development of the Afghan army is on a very good path right now.
We've made tremendous strides, incredible progress in the last 20 months.
The solid partnership has been the thing that has been really striking for me all around the country.
It's fair to ask if we're winning in Afghanistan. I believe the answer is yes, and several facts allow me to say that with confidence.
And we've seen some great progress in some of the operations based, even at the tactical level, on the intelligence structure.
They showed me the positive changes they have helped bring about, the villages they can now enter, the Afghan police and forces they are training and trying to improve.
Everything is going absolutely great, right up until we lose. What's happening? How could they talk like that for so long? Bureaucratic speak, spinning, talking points, smoke. This is the United States military. It's supposed to be better. Look, I love the military. I served on active duty for 9 years. Greatest decision I ever made was joining the Marine Corps. I loved it. I love the people. But there are problems, and there were problems with the culture. And quite frankly, you see it in civilian life too. Everybody wants to impress the boss. Nobody wants to deliver bad news to the boss, to the supervisors, to the board. You always try to put your best foot forward. The truth, though, is what's needed. And in business, it's dollars and cents, but in wartime, it's human lives, and it's so much more important. A cultural overhaul of some type, not the woke, not the virtue signaling, not the diversity and equity and inclusion nonsense that they're talking about, but a culture of honesty and candor. That's what's needed, and I hope the next president thinks about that. I'll be right back.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.